Hello, all, and welcome back to another episode of TV and Us, a conversation show about the TV series we just can't stop talking about. My name is Jennifer Hahn.
And I'm Sarah Callan.
And each season, we focus on a different show, reviewing it episode by episode, and we invite you to watch along with us. Right now, we are reviewing True Detective Season 4, and we are going to be talking about the finale today and our reflections on Season 4 as a whole. And we couldn't wrap up Season 4 of True Detective without our two very special guests who've been so faithfully along this journey with us. Pat and Nate, y'all want to introduce yourselves, although you're no strangers to the pod.
Sure. Hey, I'm Nate. Excited to close out our conversation about True Detective, Nights of Our Lives. Days of Our Country. Night Country, sorry.
Sup? This guy with his zingers. I'm Pat, homie of the pod. Say no more, because there's a lot to be said.
We will have a sweet time together of airing all of our grievances and our hot, spicy feelings. So if you haven't watched the finale yet, it is many days since the finale has aired, so I don't know what you're doing, but this is your spoiler alert. Please check out the finale before continuing to listen to the rest of this episode. All right. Well, in some of our previous episodes, we've done a little tradition where we start off and really dive right in with our episode titles of choice. And one Patrick James has done some extra credit today for this Reflections episode and has written out episode titles. So kick us off. Let us dive right in. Pat.
It's gonna be one of these nights, isn't it? I feel like that rounds out my meta arc.
Yep.
That was my episode title as well on our finale episode review. So great minds think alike. Love it. All right. It's going to be one of those episodes too. That's for sure. All right. Temp check. In the spirit of our tradition, for all of our previous episodes, on every step of this journey along the way, do a little roundtable temp check. How is everyone feeling now that they've experienced the end of our arc? And let's start off with you, Pat.
I'm glad it's over with. Part of me, like a couple episodes ago, were like, we need 4 more episodes, or we need to make it to 8 to answer stuff. By the time we arrived at the end of the finale, by the time we arrived at the start of the finale, I was like, let's just do it. Let's be done with it. Let's move on with our lives. You know, the off season's coming. Go watch something funny and lighthearted.
All right, Nate, temp check.
I thought this episode was great. It was like the perfect capstone on this like shit pyramid we've been building for 6 episodes. Every time I think this show has hit a ceiling, it keeps raising the bar. It's like the Michael Jordan of being a piece of shit. So yeah, I was a big fan of this episode. That's how you use the season 1 quote, by the way. Not time is a flat circle, which made me throw up in my mouth.
All right, Sarah, pulse check on your thoughts on the finale specifically.
I think it just continues in the long tradition of being really disjointed and kind of a mess. So I had very low expectations coming into this finale. It did better than I expected it to do, but that's not saying much because my expectations were on the floor. Similar to you, Pat, I was just happy that it was over. It's like we made it out of the night country. We made it out of Ennis. I can enjoy not snow and not night country anymore. So I'm very grateful to be done.
Just so much gratitude happening here. This is really good. We're just all so grateful and thankful. Well, there's some storylines that are wrapped up in ways that I think are so cheap. There's like a whole conversation that happens in a car where I'm like, well, you played me. You played me. The Russian wife did not arrive, and I was anticipating something to happen with Pete and Kayla dynamic, so I was upset about that. And then there's the whole explanation of what happens with the scientists because they're just so dedicated to their work, enough to murder and kill. Also, I'm calling some BS. So, yeah, this is not strong. It's actually worse than I expected. So that's impressive. Very impressive.
I feel like you've had the longest journey because you stayed on the other side of the table longer than all of us. And now I feel like not only are you on this side of the table, but
Mhm.
you're like inching your way away from the table in the same direction.
Yeah, I'm like looking for a rolly chair to just push myself away from the table. Correct. This is what happens when you like hold out hope. You're like, no, this is gonna be good. Y'all just wait. And then when they don't deliver, it's a bigger fall. Okay, let's get into some of the details of the finale and perhaps some of these thread lines that we see over the course of the season. Let's start with what are the ones that people have the most feels about on the ways that they wrapped up some of these storylines.
Most feels about. Oh goodness.
Can I point out the first thing that made me irrationally, no, it was rationally angry. Like that
Yeah.
when I knew like
Yeah, go ahead.
fuck this episode, like is
Yeah.
when, you know, obviously in the middle of the storm, they have to go to the cave now. We talked about this last time. As soon as they drop in with no rope
Mhm.
or tether, they're just going in free solo. I was like, give me yeah. Yeah. And then what happened?
That was my first thought too. I was just like, you could be able to scramble out of
Yeah.
that? That
And
looks
then it's like a
pretty
maze. You
steep.
going this way, you going that way, and you falling through different levels. Now you in P2, now you in P3. Like, get out of here.
Well, they're also supposedly looking for Clark, and they're like screaming at each other through this echoey cavern. Like, hey, do you see anything in there? Like, way to announce your presence
Good
to
thing
the
it was a
person that
heated
you
ice
are
cave too.
supposedly protecting.
Good thing it was a heated ice cave too.
Oh,
Clark
man.
only needed a blanket.
Ice caves can be warm. You know, igloos are warm.
Sure.
What I love is that they wandered around for like a minute, two. So they didn't think it was weird that they were digging a hole in like sight of Salal Station, like right fucking there, obviously. Like the geography of Salal makes no sense to me. I don't know if it's on top of like ice caves or on top of the ocean because she falls through the ice after going through the front door like later in the episode.
That's
and,
right.
Like,
I forgot about that.
I don't know. Ghosts, I guess.
Yo, they didn't even bring walkie-talkies down there in case they got separated. They were so unprepared.
Oh, that's true.
Well, it is hard to remember to bring appropriate supplies when somebody's just been murdered in your house and you have to leave the son of the person who has been murdered to clean up the body. Like, there's a lot going on. Why are you going to remember walkie-talkies when you have to go running out in an ice storm? There's no time for logic here. We have to get to the cave.
And therein lies the pain.
The root of.
Right. Felt watching this.
Okay, so we meet Raymond Clark, which is much too late to meet Raymond Clark. We should have met Raymond Clark like at least in the penultimate episode. Thoughts on that? I mean, there's a whole sequence that happens with him. Well, first there's a little like cat and mouse game that we play for about like 10 minutes to begin with, of like just a little mini search and hunt scene, and then they capture him. And we get a whole bit with them trying to extract information out of him. Thoughts on the reveals of what Raymond Clark shares around what happened?
Oh, you mean while he was headphone boarded?
I don't. Yeah, that was. Yeah, he's just instantly tortured. I was like, okay, whatever. Let's torture this man. Sure. I don't understand his character motivation. Why does he instantly attack these people?
The Night
like, what is
Country.
he hiding from again?
It was the Night Country.
Oh, the Night Country.
Night Country made him do it.
So he's lost his mind. Is that what we're supposed to believe? Or like I'm. This isn't a rhetorical question. I'm asking. Like the whole lead up to him like striking them and everything doesn't make a ton of sense in like Like he's the one that reveals all the information. They don't know he's a bad guy. They just know he's been missing.
Mm.
So that made no sense to me. And then yeah, he's instantly tortured, and then he kind of exposits
All the
basically everything that
information.
happens. Oh no, he exposits all of what happened to Annie K.
Yeah, I thought that whole
Which
bit
is
or the whole explanation that it's this team of crazed scientists that were so obsessed with their work. We're just so motivated to take Annie K out. Like, I just needed a little bit more. Like, I get you're in Ennis, I get you're in Night Country, I get that like you're probably going a little insane, but the way they like showed that reenactment, it's like she's destroying some things. They immediately pounce on her. I'm like, I don't think I buy this.
Especially
And for
multiple,
all of them
yeah,
too.
multiple people. Like it'd be one thing if one person had like a frantic, like knee jerk response, but the fact that they were like,
Yes.
"Oh, we jumping someone? Yo,
Yeah.
I'm down. What's up?" Like,
and fucking brutally murdered
Yes.
this
Yeah.
woman
I'm like, yeah, this is not enough
Yeah,
there.
I
There's
don't-
not enough there.
because she wrecked their
Yes.
homework.
Yeah, which should have been like backed up. Like you back up data like that on like multiple like servers or whatever. Like that is not the only place that this data exists. So you just killed this woman for no reason. Doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense.
Another nitpick. What does Salal do? It does that, right? It does like ice mining and everything. Why is it in a secret hatch? Why is what they do in a secret hatch?
because if they don't have a secret hatch, then someone can't quite realistically hold on to it for a week in the cold while they're waiting out people to leave.
Like even the geologist teacher knows that they do like mining, like mining for microorganisms. Like I don't understand why that's underneath the floor.
Also, how'd they get all that equipment in there? I wondered that as soon as they started chasing Raymond Clark, and I was like, oh, we just have the most high tech, again, Avengers level quality lab just sitting in an ice cave. Miss me with this bullshit.
Yeah, I also hated that the murder was like in the mode of Murder on the Orient Express, and like that story and like the way that that happens in Murder on the Orient Express has so much meaning and depth to it, and then it's used here just so cheaply. And like, are you kidding me? This has no additional meaning to the story as a whole, and that's like you're misusing this really really great idea from a really famous novel and movie, and that just annoyed me.
But they made up for it
Mhm.
because there was the Spiral logo in the ice.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
Mhm.
You're right. The spiral made
Right.
it better.
And the orange,
And in the orange.
which
That
okay,
was perfect. It was a
can we
perfect
talk about some fruit
Papa.
and some mammals for a second? All of this so that an orange could fall out of the fridge. All of this so Navarro could leave the teddy bear on a stripped mattress. If this isn't the most A24 shit I've ever seen,
No.
Don't start, Pat.
I just did.
This is the kind of shit that gives ambiguous endings like a bad name. This is like This is-
yeah. Well, I love in the orange scene that the show really does think we're idiots, because Navarro has a whole line where she says, "My mother used to love oranges and Julia too." It's like, we knew this was related to your family. Come on, we've got brains. We just need a full explanation from Navarro in the
Right,
last
and we-
episode.
and we-
Okay.
she used to peel them in
It
one
looks like a
long
spiral.
strip.
Yeah.
I can't quite imagine it. I hope the show shows me what that's like. So what do we think about the cleaning ladies reveal?
I thought it was one of the stronger parts of the storytelling, like the outcomes and the meaning behind it. I just think we needed to land at the destination in a
Well,
much smoother
No, but
way.
they had
Like,
to.
had they like really set that up throughout, like, all right, let's go. You know, like there's a lot of like context and meaning and depth to that, but we did not set this up at all. So great ideas came too late.
It's one of those things that could have been really good in like a more competent show, which is sad. But yeah, as it is, they found the secret lab, which is just the lab, and then found a tool that looked like the wounds, and then decided that all of the scientists did it, and we need to kill all of them.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
And
Yeah.
then just went and a mass execution at a station that apparently has no cameras, even though they have cameras looking at fucking empty collapsed caves. There's no cameras at this station. Also, when you cut the all right, I'm good. I should stop with the nitpicking. But when you cut power, it doesn't stop cell phone videos. It just doesn't. Cell phone videos still run when there's no power. They can see flashlights and they see people going by, but it's fine.
Yeah, there's so many things about that just doesn't make sense. There's a lot of problems with this. Like we said, it's a nice idea, but just done not great. And if you think about it at all, it starts to not make sense.
Can we talk about the fact that they couldn't wait out the storm to go to the cave, but when they forcefully spoon-fed us a unnecessary bonding moment with Danvers and Navarro, because obviously Danvers had to fall through the ice because that was necessary, totally relevant, and obviously Navarro, who was out on Fury Road again, with her very insignificant connection to her eardrum being blown up, as it was back on the ship, obviously snapped out of that and was able to know exactly in the dark, windy ice storm where Danvers was and to pull her out. And then, well, we can't have the same haste that we had to get here. We got to sit here with this fire at our feet and wait it out.
Yeah, the amount of times the two of them were like, there's no service. There's no way we can drive. We're stuck out here. I'm like, cue the bonding moment coming because you're stuck having to like pour your eyes out. They mentioned that like 3 or 4 times back and forth to each other, which once again, the show really does think we're dumb.
You want to know what my absolute favorite scene was? And like, this is like, it's not because it's coming to me now. Like the episode wrapped and I was like, this was still my favorite scene. Is when Danvers gets locked out with a gun in her hand and instead needs to go over and rip a metal pole off the wall to try and break the glass that she could have shot and instantly walked through.
I loved that shit. That was my favorite.
Me too.
And then she's just gonna let Navarro kill him before they have like any information, and then they get a little bit more information, and then she does kill him or let him kill himself or whatever the fuck happens, and then she's upset that happens. It's like, you were fine with this like one scene ago.
And so this is not a rhetorical question either. Are we to assume that the video of his admissions on the phone at the end was taken before he killed himself, or is that supposed to be some like Spirit Raymond confession?
I had that same question.
I assume that's right.
Because
before.
in that case, why didn't she just say to Danvers, yeah, he just iced himself. Don't worry, I got the whole thing right here.
Right?
Oh yeah, that's what I assumed. I assumed it's just like there's no fucking like there's I assume that it was just like there's no reason for her not to tell Danvers except like this has to happen in the last like few seconds of the episode. Like that's where the reveal has to be. That's what I assumed. I didn't assume that it was like a spirit confession.
Well, we did have
a cell phone video. I don't know which is stupider, honestly.
Like, that's not a bad idea. Like that makes it more fun. You know, we already got ghosts and stuff running about, so like
we did even see Spirit Raymond when Navarro turned around.
It's true.
And he like
what?
Morphed. Wasn't that after he was dead?
Yeah. I don't know. Honestly, I don't remember this episode anymore. But
I watched it in 5 sittings. like in 5 parts over the last like 8 days. I finished it this morning.
I'm dead.
There's a scene where like after he's all long gone and stuff, Navarro turns around and he's like, he looks over at her and then he like twitches for like a few seconds and then he looks all like White Walker Night King-esque and then he like disappears.
Yeah, it could be Spirit Raymond who gave the confession. That sounds great. That's so fun. Let's do that instead. Why not? We got oranges, we got polar bears. Let's have a spirit confession. Sounds great.
Yeah, because we got Spirit Navarro at the end, apparently, in this like ambiguous ending. Oh, I was so mad. Like,
so yeah, did she kill herself? Is that what happened?
We don't know. She might. Yeah, she might just be sitting on a. She might be sitting on a deck with Danvers, just taking in the day country.
So what I said when we talked about ambiguous endings is that like although like from a plot perspective it may be ambiguous, usually thematically it's not that ambiguous. Like the themes all tie together. But in this case that's not true. Like it really fucking matters if she killed herself or not. If the story we want to tell is one about like lifting indigenous people's voices and then like your high note ending, like your coda of your show is this like your indigenous lead having gone missing and like that really fucking misses the mark. And
hey man,
yeah, like a lot of indigenous people actually do go missing and do kill themselves. Like that is not something to play happy music to. Like that is a massive thematic fuck up. That cannot be ambiguous. And if she did kill herself, that cannot be a happy thing.
But there's only so much screen time, so it was important that they showed us things like the fact that she left Kavik, SpongeBob,
it's not a screen time thing. Oh yeah, Kavik gets really fucked over. Fuck this show. He never gets any kind of closure. Poor guy.
And she leaves it on a dumpster, not even on like his doorstep or his bar. She leaves it on the top of his dump. Like, how many times a day does he go to that dumpster? And why are you putting something that's supposed to be like super hygienically, cared for on top of a fucking dumpster?
Yeah, it's just cheap metaphor and cheap thrills, man. Which, like, if you want cheap thrills, there's plenty of like Netflix reality TV shows. Love is Blind season 6 is hot right now. Like to your point earlier, Nate, like this is like meaty subject matter that really could have been so meaningful, and you can't like play around with that. And I've read it. I mean, I guess it's just for the press of like the headlines of like the ending explained, and just to generate energy. I don't know. That's my cynical capitalism.
I mean, this whole thing is like a cynical capitalism masterclass.
I loved when I think Danvers was walking through the lab and there was like glass shards under her feet. Was it in the lab? I think that first happened.
Yeah.
And then I was like, really? Y'all gonna drop another polar bear on us in the finale? Like y'all gonna introduce another one right now? We got like 40 minutes left. Please, let's see what you got. And then flashback, accident, brah, brah, brah.
No, we just don't get a payoff for the polar bear. Like there's no reason for it.
Yeah.
I've been saying this the whole time, Nathan. I knew this was gonna happen.
Like it's just so inconsistent. Like if you want to have a supernatural thing, that's fine. Just like have some internal consistency with it. Like Danvers should be the only one seeing the polar bears, and Navarro and her sister should be the only one seeing like oranges. But that's not the case. It's like Navarro sees a polar bear. Why the fuck would that ever happen? And then like the whole thing around the dead, like the thing about like they say early on, what is it? Rose says it. The thing about the dead is that some of them come visit because they miss you, some because they need to tell you something that you need to hear, some just want to take you with them. So why was her son below the ice, like calling her into the ice? Does he want to take her with him? But no, she says, he said, I see you, or you, yeah. What?
Look, Nate, there was a lot going on. They needed to hustle themselves to a fire so that Danvers could heat her feet up.
Yeah, because we needed Danvers to go from the literal worst human being in the show, which is impressive, to a mildly pleasant person by the end with literally no explanation of how she got there other than she fell into the ice. Like, really? I do believe that a near-death experience is probably quite transformative, but are you kidding me?
Mhm.
This is so cheap that now she's just
Mhm.
this happy person. No, I don't believe it.
Yeah.
She got the Hawaii cup though.
My other favorite thing was when they were like, "What about the tongue? That's not part of our story." It's like, you cheeky sons of bitches. Stop seeding a potential for this to come back around. No one wants that. Let the tongue live. Let the tongue
my
rest
favorite.
in peace. Give it some closure.
One of
They're learning from Marvel.
my favorite line of the episode was, "Some questions just don't have answers." I was like,
We know.
yeah, you would say that.
Well, Nate, are you able to successfully unravel yourself from the fetal position now because you've made it to the end and there is no Rust and no Marty in sight? Just a terribly
Yep.
reused line, iconic line, and some spirals. But overall, I would say you came out pretty unscathed as far as how bad it could have been with the references to season 1.
Yeah, it's fine. Like I said, I've gotten pretty good at like compartmentalizing content like this. Like I've had so many things destroyed over the years that I'm just numb to it at this point.
Should we also talk about Pete and how he's like almost not in this episode at all and they just kind of like forgot about him?
What else did you want to see from him? Any sort of like
I
character
mean, just
coda or anything?
that would be great. You
did.
know, like a character moment, growth, change, something.
I mean,
don't
he
know,
actually made it
but-
back home and spent the night with his son. That's growth, right?
Yeah, I mean, he had his drive-through resolution with his wife, and
That
then
irked me so much.
dumped his
Right.
dad's body off, and yeah, that's it. That's how you
Mhm.
cap
And-
off a character, like one of the only good characters in the show.
And let
Kayla holds her own for so long
Mhm.
through this show. And Homegirl, you know how many movies and shows do this? With the, they're just like,
That was a perfect ending. She was upset with him for no reason, and she
No
forgives him for
Yes.
even less of a reason. It was perfect.
Also, I mean, Sarah, you should count this as a dub because let's be real. Early on, we were thinking Pete was going to be offed by the time it was all said and done.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I was happy that, like, for the character's sake, I was happy that he got almost no screen time because they forgot about him so that he didn't have to have a tragic ending. But also, it's so unsatisfying, just like the entire rest of this episode. So at least the show is not consistent in many ways. It's very consistent in being unsatisfying. So at least there's that.
Yeah.
the scene where they include the very end, the deposition footage. I'm just like, y'all are just feeding content for the keyboard warriors on Reddit threads that are like ride or die season 1 fans.
Don't worry. At least in the deposition, she just went with, "We don't know where Navarro is," not that she's at my secret, like, sex club, lake house, whatever thing that made no sense for Danvers' character to have. They made a whole thing about having to cut up Hank for virtually no reason. It's like, you don't want to watch this? I do. He didn't even come out of the trash bag. Like,
I do
What
love
I
that
did
scene with
appreciate about that, though, is that, like, you know that Rose has disposed of a body before, and that made me go, okay, Rose, I think, is the most interesting character in this
Rose
show.
and Kavik are the
And
best characters.
I like that little nod. Yeah,
I want to
by
see
far.
them just sit in this bar with no one else there, petting dogs, having drinks, and talking about weird shit.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Danvers. He'll turn up when it thaws. They always do. Except when they don't. Except when Rose is on her lung chopping game heavy.
Yes.
Do you have anything to say about the season as a
Yeah.
whole? Or the legacy of True Detective or anything?
They were very generous to the viewers because they started with a corpsicle and they ended with another corpsicle.
That's true. I did find that pretty funny. And he like instantaneously was like frozen to death.
Well, the fun seems to be set to continue as the capitalist machine continues to hum along proudly. Because there's season 5 set to air soon with Issa Lopez back. How do we feel?
Is any of the cast coming back?
From what I read a couple days ago, it's all up in the air. They only know that she's coming back.
We know how this worked out for Game of Thrones, don't we? When you just let the showrunners just run wild with whatever they want to do.
What? That's not what happened with Game of Thrones. You learn the wrong lessons from everything.
That's how you see it. It's not how I. I want to know, if you were to offer an orange to a polar bear, do you think it would eat it?
Honestly, this is a good question. I don't know. But
Now you're asking the right questions.
Yeah, this is the right question. Well done. You've learned your lessons from Danvers. Do we think there's going to be polar bears and oranges in the next season?
That's my question. Is it going to be a continuation of this world, or is it going to be another anthology thing?
Jen, isn't what you sent out like another ice image?
That's why it's confusing.
Interesting. I didn't think it was ice. It was more reacting also to this fact that the spiral is still there. So we'll see how many seasons we need to go until we figure out what the spiral actually means.
I mean, it's
a warning for the chaos. Thin ice. You just put it on like a small rock, and hopefully it doesn't get snowed on.
Mm-hmm. We already solved that mystery.
They'll name drop the Tuttles
There you go.
in one of the episodes and never revisit again.
I was just gonna say, so glad that
and have it make no sense.
Tuttle had so much involvement.
Yeah.
I did actually like the way that they revealed what was actually happening with the mine and like the water and stuff. Like, oh, we've actually been like having them over pollute or whatever for our research. Like, I was surprised they arrived at something that was that thought out. Even though it was a single thought, I was like, wow. Like, someone actually had a full thought that they interjected into the plot here, not just like a fragment of a thought. Though I do wish I could have seen What's-Her-Face get her door at the Avengers Palace kicked in and her get like arrested, but you know, there was a lot left to be desired.
Yeah, I don't know. That was just a line for me. I don't really understand how pollution melts local permafrost like that, but I don't know. I'm not a soil
you're
scientist,
also not a geology teacher.
That one just
You're
kind
also
of
not a
slid right off
geology
my
teacher
brain.
who hooks up with Danvers. You have no say in how this science works. So yeah, shush.
Both things are true. Yeah.
I also like that she's just gonna stay right there in Ennis. Like, how many families have you destroyed? How many homes have you wrecked? And you think you belong here? You think the people want you just kicking around some more?
But she's cool now.
Yeah,
she's got a Hawaii cut.
exactly.
She's probably doing this all the time.
Yeah.
Shakalaka. She's fine.
She's mildly pleasant now, Pat.
Yeah, that also could just be from an antidepressant prescription. Like, we don't really know if she changed.
I'm not gonna touch that one.
All right. Any other thoughts about the season, about True Detective, the direction of the True Detective brand, and how it's gone on quite a little journey?
Oh, the brand's diluted to shit. But that was the case before we even got here. Like, started this whole ride of season 4.
Yeah. I think this season has made me reappreciate season 1 a lot. I think that the last watch through with such a critical eye, I think tainted it a bit, and this has resparked my love of it.
I actually want to know how that applies or doesn't apply to Sarah.
Yeah, season 1 is far better than this season. Still didn't enjoy it, so I am still wrong.
Yes.
But I mean, even when we were reviewing it, like I know that the show is of high quality. I just didn't connect with it, and so I still maintain that. But it's far better than season 4.
Sure. But now I wonder if you could be like, if there's any part of you that could be like, well, you know, maybe I could give Marty a little grace now that I've seen the treachery that is Danvers.
You just gotta like her.
Yeah, Pat.
She's not gonna like it.
That is a show that I don't want to watch again. I don't want to return to again. I've seen it. I've experienced it. I have been wrong, and I just want to leave it there.
I do think there's this funny like thing in online discourse where like there's a good thing and there's a bad thing after it, and then there's an even worse thing after it, and then like everyone's like, well, maybe that second bad thing wasn't that bad after all. It's like, why do we have to relitigate these things? It's just like there are multiple degrees of bad. Like, don't lower the bar.
Well, it's fascinating because like the online conversation, there's a lot of folks getting flack for critiquing Night Country because they're comparing it too much to season 1. And so the people that are fans of Night Country are like, well, all of y'all just love season 1, but you got to let that go and just like experience this one for what it is. And I'm like, well, you're called True Detective and you're part of the brand. So you like can't fault people for comparing them. And also part of that comparison is because, hey, here's a format that both are using, and here's an example of it done well. So of course we're going to compare it to that, you know, versus just like going in with a white canvas. Like the reality is we're not. So you can't. I think that's a fascinating like counter argument to the critiques of this show that I've found very fascinating.
I am sympathetic to like the creators and the creative team that this was shoehorned into True Detective by HBO when it wasn't intended to be. I still think that you could have done this a lot better.
I feel the same way.
That's just a tough situation to be. Like the expectations are already going to be like so high, and that just kind of sucks. That sucks for everyone except HBO.
Well, yeah, because the viewership for this has been insanely great for them. I am intrigued to see what the numbers are for the amount of engagement on season 5 now that people have fully experienced Night Country. I would imagine the retention rate's going to be lower.
I would love to hear a brief summary or synopsis of the original treatment to see if there were areas that would have been better fleshed out, if there were things that were just literally added in that were never supposed to be there. Like if there was a paranormal element that was supposed to be much more thought out and much more of like a core piece of the story, that they were like, you need to widen this back because it's True Detective and we don't do ghosts, except we do, just not that much.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about too, is what did the original version and the original vision of this look like before, it became True Detective, and HBO did a capitalism, so it probably would have been better.
Yeah, I think it would have been better, but the character arcs are like, that still isn't strong. So I'm like, that's gotta have been in the originals too, that these arcs and these characters are in this way. So I'm like, maybe it would have been better, but not good enough. I think the core, the meat and potatoes aren't there.
It just sucks. I just feel like given the ingredients of like this setting, like a story centered on Indigenous people, Jodie Foster, HBO, like we should have gotten something better, like much better, something that is greater than the sum of those parts and not far, far less. And yeah, it makes me sad that so many people watched it. Like, I feel like there's a lot of good content out there that also focuses on these things, that like has better messaging and things like that. That I don't know, people should watch that instead.
So you were hoping for, because of the ingredients that were available, a Michelin experience, and you ended up at Applebee's. That's what I'm hearing you say in different words.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, it's like, Applebee's with like shaved truffles. I feel vindicated, like, for not watching TV. It's just like, I will go back to my movie hole now. Thank you. I have come out of my hole and I've seen my shadow, and I am happy to report that there are 6 more years of movie winter, or TV winter coming.
Pat, any last thoughts?
I want to mail Nate a stuffed polar bear to keep him company in his forced winter.
One-eyed, though.
Right.
Gotta take out the eye before you.
Oh, yeah.
Very
Obviously.
important detail.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Of course.
And I'll put it in a Florida orange box for theming,
And be sure to include like a Hawaii sticker on there or something.
Do y'all have any last thoughts?
Just capitalism is my overall reflection. It's such a great thing to blame because it's just so potent and it's so present. And I feel like so much, just the existence of this feels like the looming presence of capitalism has arrived and made its presence known. So that's what I've been thinking about since this finale aired. Just like, this really doesn't need to exist. Like, let's just create net new content, figure out how to market it well, whatever it might have been called Night Country. And I partially, it's a interesting like push and a shove because us as audiences, like, we seem to love the IP content too. So we keep showing up for it, us included, but the machine just is pushing.
That's why I feel bad about watching it. It's like,
right?
Like, we're susceptible to it, right? Because it's like a lot of things I've heard brought up in like the discourse are like, there are better shows like that fit this structure. Like, people brought up Mayor of Easttown as like a good show with like a strong female lead who's just like lead detective in like Deadlock and like a bunch of others, and it's just like, yeah, I haven't seen any of those, so that sucks. That sucks that I watched this instead.
Yeah. And then the other thing I've been thinking about is like, it's healthy for the discourse to be happening. So like, our public service is airing all of our grievances so that the studios are aware that this is not working for the people, so don't make more of this. Yeah.
Getting views. It's got those views.
Sarah, any last thoughts?
I'm just curious what the next thing that we review that is going to have fruit that is going to piss Pat off. Because we've had the apples in Men, now we've had oranges in Night Country. What's going to be next?
I have a good animal one for him, which, Pat, I've already told you about, but it's a shame it's A24.
Exactly.
But it's Lamb.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, you like A24.
I'm not.
You're a secret fan. Yeah, you liked all those fucking movies that we made you watch. Everything Everywhere All at Once was your movie of the year in
indeed.
April.
And
Uncut Gems, I recall.
I'm not.
You're an A24
I did not
fan.
like The Lighthouse. I don't know where
Yeah.
you got that conclusion from.
Well, I didn't pick that one. But that
Okay.
You're just wrong.
Anyway, Jen, you were saying?
I was just saying there's a movie about sheep and
Oh, the Lamb
running
movie?
through Iceland. Yeah.
Oh, God. I heard that one's not good.
Is there fruit?
There's no fruit, but there's animals.
Oh, I see.
So we've got a little animal meta thread going for you, and we've got a fruit one.
Look, if y'all want to judge me because I find I find it cheap when fruit moves on its own when it shouldn't. Judge away. I don't care.
Just moving fruit. what? What a trigger.
Well, that's also supposed to symbolize something that is vague and not fleshed out.
Yeah.
So I'm just excited to see the next randomly moving fruit without meaning that's gonna trigger you. So I'm gonna be on the lookout now.
All right, I'm gonna be on the lookout for it too.
We'll be here with our popcorn to watch you just go blow up in flames. It'd be great.
Well, I have complete faith that A24 will deliver something within the next 2 years that does just that.
Do you think True Detective will like just be the place where like world-class actors go to like create mediocre television like forever? Because that seems to be the legacy of seasons 2, 3, and 4, right?
The True Detective curse.
I mean, everyone needs a break, right? It's just like, oh yeah, you know, I'm tired. I just won that Oscar. I'm gonna hang out, and, like,
Phone it in.
make a True Detective season.
All right. Well, this was our review and discussion of season 4 of True Detective. We have arrived. The plane has landed. You may now unbuckle your seatbelts and depart off the plane. Welcome to a new and light-filled, warm place. We're out of the night country. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of TV and Us. And thank you, Nate and Pat, for so generously being along this journey with us as we endured the experience together.
Yeah, thank you. I always love being here. Let's watch something good next time you have me.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, I always have a good time. Thanks for having us. And I agree with Nate. Let's watch something that's not A24 or A24 similar next time.
That's not what I said.
Potato.
We appreciate that the airing of grievances can sometimes result in some good fun as we roast the things that are not good. All right, so next time we will choose something wonderful and delightful and that warms all of our little hearts. All right, well, our name, TVNS, sums it up. We're big fans of good TV and the powerful ways we connect with each other and the world around us. This podcast is about our shared stories. So everyone is welcome here, and we're grateful you went along this journey with us as we adventured through True Detective Season 4. You can subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you tune into your favorite shows. Drop us a review letting us know your thoughts about Season 4 overall. You can connect with us on Instagram and Twitter at TVNSPod, or email us at tvnspod@gmail.com. We will be back soon with some more TVNS as we figure out what we might want to review next. We hope you have an amazing week, and we'll talk again soon.